Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, we talk to a military comedian about the not-so-funny topic of spousal unemployment. Plus, the unexpected history of drag in the military. Have a look at some World War II era footage. We also talk to the president of the Marine Corps Association about the importance of events like the modern-day Marine Expo. And finally, see how Ukrainians are training to fight the ongoing war with Russia, which invaded more than a year ago. With the latest in news and analysis, from the Pentagon to the platoon, this is Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Irene Lowenson. Ashley Gutermuth is an Air Force spouse who draws from military family life to fuel her material as a stand-up comedian. She has also become an advocate for military spouse employment. Marine Corps Times editor Andrea Scott caught up with Gutermuth at Modern Day Marine to learn more about spousal unemployment and the inspiration behind her jokes.
You have it so easy, the military pays to move your stuff. Well, Maria, they do pay to move my stuff, but they don't guarantee how many pieces it will be in when it arrives at my final destination.
3, 2, 1. Babe, I found these pens in your uniform. I'm just gonna save time and throw them in the dryer now.
I can't wait to see our first house on base. What's that smell?
All right, let's do this.
The military took out my knees and replaced them with Skittles.
Babe, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ashley.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you.
And we're here at the Modern Day Marine, and you were leading a panel this morning.
I did. I led the Military Spouse Employment Panel, which was super cool. We had Hiring Our Heroes. We had Mrs. Patty Barron was here. We had some spouses talking about their employment journey. So it was really good.
And you're a military spouse yourself. You're also a comedian. But let's talk about the military spouse space and your role on this panel and what you're seeing in the military spouse space right now.
I am a military spouse. I am an Air Force spouse, so I'm sorry. You can't say that loud at Modern Day Marine. But yeah, so what am I seeing? I'm seeing a lot of good things. I'm seeing a lot of good, just people talking about it. People talking about how military spouses need jobs and need to do jobs that are real to what they want. So like, we have tons of military spouses that are lawyers, that are judges. You know, you look at things like the Military Spouse Juris Doctorate Network, which created, they literally changed laws so they didn't have to retake the bar every time they moved. So I'm seeing positive trends, which is great. But will it ever be enough? I don't know. We're going to keep chugging along until everybody that wants a job has a job. But we have a 22% unemployment rate, though, so that's pretty high. We got to chisel that away.
And now you're using your comedy to talk about being a military spouse in that space. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so I was a stand-up comedian for years before I started talking about being a spouse. And the reason for that was when you're a comedian, you're out late at night a lot and you're alone. You know, if my husband's deployed, I didn't want to be like, oh, yeah, hey everybody, my husband's deployed. Come follow me out to my car. Let's play Kidnap Ashley. It wasn't into that. Now it's fine, I guess. Apparently, I just talk about it all the time. He's not deployed now, so that's okay. But yeah, so I started off by being a troublemaker, which is what I like to do anyway, because I've always been kind of like that. One of the first military spouse videos I put out was I said that there's a military spouse paycheck, and that if your husband hasn't given that to you yet, that you need to talk to his commander, which made a lot of people very nervous. But I've never had any pushback from any type of senior leader. I've talked to the heads, the 4 stars in charge of the services. I've had chiefs from like high-level command chief type that will come up to me and say, hey, I wake up to you in bed every morning. And I'm very pleased for them.
And people are using comedy, right, to connect maybe a tough time with the deployment, like you said. Are you seeing that resonating with military spouses and families, some of your topics you cover?
Yes, because otherwise you feel alone. Like you feel like you're going through the whole thing alone, especially if you're in like a remote location or something like that where you don't have a lot of the other, like a lot of resources available to you, say. And then you just think, all right, this is just my life, and now, my spouse is deployed for 6 months to a year, and now I gotta take care of everything, and also on top of it, I have all of these stigmas, placed upon me because of whatever people think a military spouse is. So I think if you can make jokes about it, then people go, oh, it's not just me thinking this. There's a ton of people. And then you can get involved in the comments on social media videos, and you can see people that are also dealing with the same kind of stuff. That's one of my favorite things, is when I write a joke that seems very specific but is able to resonate with tons of people. So my example of that was, I made a joke where I pretended to be on the phone with my friend, and she said that she was dating a soldier, but he just had really hairy ankles. And I said, oh, he's got really hairy ankles, huh? He doesn't have that bit of hair rubbed away from where his boots have rubbed all that hair away for the rest of his life? And she's like, no. And I said, well, he's not a soldier. I'm sorry. He's a fake. Stolen valor. The amount of people that wrote back and said, oh my goodness, I thought it was just me. I thought I had a skin disease. It's where the boots rub. Oh, so that was so neat for me to be able to connect all those people to a silly thing like hairless ankles.
And there was one with a stolen valor Navy SEAL, right?
Oh, Amber wrote to me and said that her boyfriend is a Navy SEAL, but at night he's got to work at Red Lobster to be able to make extra money. And I just, I told her that that is the secret Cheddar Bay biscuit mission. And even though it's been recently declassified, she shouldn't talk about it.
Are there any jokes that came out of your time here at Modern Day Marine?
At Modern Day Marine? Oh my goodness. It wasn't a joke, but it was, did you get to pet Chesty?
I didn't pet Chesty today, but I have pet him before, yes.
It's an awkward thing to walk up to somebody and say, did you pet Chesty? Chesty is the dog, the bulldog, the Marine bulldog. Chesty had no interest in me. Like, I cannot express to you how, unenthused Chesty was. You know what? Next time I'm bringing treats. I think that's... I have loved being a part of Modern Day Marine. It's so cool to see all of the stuff that they're, the new things that people are trying to sell to the Marines to have them use, and to see, imagine any other company having the other conferences in this conference hall are probably so different. There's not armed targets or 50 cals. This is a cool one. This is cool.
Do you think Chesty smelled your cat? Maybe that's why he was turned off?
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. He probably did smell Bruce. Bruce is my giant cat. He's a maniac. He will kill me in my sleep someday, and it's fair. It's fair, because he deserves all the treats.
Or your Roombas, of course, or her pet Roombas. So you're on tour right now. Can you tell us about your tour, and then where we can find you on social media, online, and all that?
Yeah, so let's see. San Antonio is going to be a big hit coming up. That's one of our big towns that we're coming to. But we travel all over. We've already done Columbus and DC and Seattle. And then next year we're going on tour. We're going to go to Europe and Japan, which is going to be great. But if you go to ashleygutermuth.com or any of my social media where I'm at Ash Gutermuth, you can find all the information. And I want to come to wherever people are. I'll come perform in your living room. I've done it before. I am not ashamed.
All right, Ashley, anything you want to leave us with today?
Thank you so much. I've had a great time, and I hope to be able to come back next year. And thanks for talking with me.
It was so great to see you. Thanks so much.
Stick around. Up next, we get the unexpected history of drag in the military. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. Early last month, the Pentagon handed down a directive saying that drag shows on U.S. military facilities would no longer be allowed. Amid a national controversy over the shows, a Defense Department spokesperson said supporting the shows was not a permitted use of resources. But drag shows have long been a part of entertainment in the military, dating back to World War II and beyond. With a look at some of the history of drag shows among U.S. forces, we turn to reporter Sarah Sicard.
On June 1, the first day of Pride Month, the Defense Department announced that U.S. military bases would no longer be able to host drag shows.
This has been a long-standing policy in terms of activities like this, that DoD will not host drag events at U.S. military installations or facilities. We became aware of the drag events during an April congressional hearing that there were a drag event scheduled to take place at DoD installations and facilities. And so, again, the Secretary advised that the department will not host such events.
Although drag shows were not funded by American tax dollars, they were allowed to be privately organized on military installations. The ban had an immediate impact, with a Pride Month show at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada featuring a civilian drag queen named Coco Montrese canceled as a result. However, the U.S. military, contrary to current public perception, has a lengthy history when it comes to drag shows, particularly during World War II, when cross-dress events were not only sanctioned by the Army, but celebrated as a boon for morale. Because the armed forces were officially segregated by sex until 1948, there was very little choice for any service member theater production but to employ men as women. Images from the era show troops getting ready for shows by applying makeup and donning women's clothes before entering the stage. These productions included song and dance numbers, all set to rousing music.
Be a swing believer, get that beat in your blood. Who loves and it keeps the bloom of Ningy? Come on, brethren, shake your feathers and get together and swing.
A now famous production known as This Is the Army included all manner of soldiers in various costumes, including women's clothing and makeup.
Tonight's a special occasion, so be especially bright.
In this production, cross-dressing was not only encouraged by the military, but it became a nationwide sensation. Though it was originally a Broadway musical intended to fundraise for the troops, it was eventually turned into a movie that starred an actor named Ronald Reagan, who would one day be President of the United States. Drag's origins, according to historians, came about through an array of theater traditions from cultures around the world. For much of history, women were not permitted to be actors, thereby forcing men to perform in feminine roles. Drag as we know it today derived from vaudeville theater, which is essentially just a variety show. I spoke to NYU professor Joe E. Jeffries, a drag historian, about drag in the military and how it was supported by Army officials.
What fascinates me is that the military was, supporting these shows. They were producing these shows. They even produced, handbooks of how to put on one of these shows, how to make costuming out of items that the military had access to, parachute material, this type of thing. So the military was actually involved in this.
But shifting perspectives in recent years, particularly from GOP lawmakers, have reclassified drag not as a form of theater art, but one of both sexual deviance and a continued embrace of wokeness, a concept being decried as a primary reason the services are failing to meet recruitment goals. As a result, the ban of on-base drag shows, which has effectively ended an 80-year tradition, doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon.
The Modern Day Marine Expo has grown to be a place where marine leadership and industry meet. We caught up with Marine Corps Association President and CEO, General Charles Chiroti, to learn about the yearly event.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And can you tell us a little bit about the Marine Corps, Modern Day Marine, and your involvement here?
So I'm the president and CEO of the Marine Corps Association, which co-hosts the Modern Day Marine 2023, and actually 2022 before that. This is the 43rd running of Modern Day Marine, but only the second time that we've had it up here in the convention center. Modern Day Marine in Washington, D.C. location was really born of the Commandant's vision, General Berger's vision a couple of years ago, where we really started to look at, where do we want to go with this event into the future? And really what we decided was, we need to get it out of and off of the base at Quantico and bring it to the convention center, not because of the location or because the environmental conditions or anything else like that, but it was truly about the targeted audience. And the targeted audience that we seek to really go after are those senior leadership from the Hill, those that we need as a Marine Corps need to help understand what are the concepts of the Marine Corps into the future that are going to help us win and fight our battles. And then partnered with industry, we'll be able to show them the capabilities that are required, that are possible to support those concepts. And so we've come here to Wall Street Convention Center really to do just that for that purpose.
Is there anything new or anything you're excited about for this year?
I am. So, well, like anything else in Marine, we always try to improve on the past, right, and make it better. And so what we've done is we've enhanced the show this year, and we've added some extra event, and I call them events, but really some extra venues that go after other topical areas. The association itself is responsible for the military professional education of the Marine Corps, above and beyond what the Commandant provides. And so what we did this year is really focus on spouses and, the issues that impact military Marine spouses, as well as bring in other. I know you've interviewed some of them, but other speakers that could really target some of those other areas that we want to go into. And so it's really been exciting to see this, expansion and enhanced venue that we provided this year.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Marine Corps Association, maybe to somebody who doesn't know what it is or what they do?
So, we're about 1913 is when we were founded by General Lejeune, under the requirement that we wanted to improve the professional military and the debate of the Marines. Right. And so at a time when the Navy we were embattled by roles and missions, and, was the Marine Corps going to exist into the future? And we felt that we really needed to improve our professional understanding of the political, social, economic environment. And so we wanted to foster a sense of professional military education. We've been doing that since then, and we have two seminal magazines that we put out. One is the Gazette of the Marine Corps, and one is the Leatherneck for Marines. Every month, these publications are published. The Gazette is really where we do our concepts development. We have the professional debate, and the Leatherneck is about really the curation of our heritage. So more historical in nature, more personal, the personal stories. I've been there, done that. From World War II, Korea, Vietnam, OIF, and all that. We are also charged with professional excellence. And so through that, we deliver about 4,500 awards per year. Everything from the honor person at boot camp, that number one individual who graduates from boot camp, to some of our more prominent awards, such as the Leftwich Trophy, which recognizes, that best leader in the combat arms field, company grade leader. So yeah. And then we also work on curating our legacy and our history. All Marines are the same, regardless of whether you came in the 50s, 60s, 70s to present day Marines. We're all about the Marine Corps. We're all about taking care of each other. There's no difference between yesterday's Marines and today's Marines. I just want to be able to leave a better Marine Corps for my daughter who serves, and ultimately a better service for everyone.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time.
Coming up next, we get the latest tips from our personal finance expert. Welcome back. On this edition of Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack gives you her latest financial tips.
Some things just work well together, like peanut butter and jelly, or in the banking world, credit cards and rewards. But sometimes there are things that just don't mix, like using a personal account for business purposes. It may seem like a small thing, but having separate records of your income and expenditures is key to running your own business. And mixing the two can affect your legal liability. To keep things clear, get an employer identification number, or EIN, from the IRS if you haven't already. You'll use this number for filing your business tax return or applying for a business loan or credit card and more. Then choose a business structure that really fits your long-term goals, an LLC or a corporation. Open a business checking account or a savings account and a business credit card with a financial institution you trust. Then keep records of incoming and outgoing payments, supplies, or equipment purchases. This makes bookkeeping and tax season a whole lot easier. And using a business credit card is a great way to build up your business credit score. Reach out to your business lender for help making the best move for you and your business. A clearer and separate picture of your operating income and expenses will keep you on the right track for business success.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more coverage of military and defense topics, look up from that terrain map and check out Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps Times.com, as well as defensenews.com. And to be semper informed, sign up for our Early Bird Brief newsletter, compiled each morning to bring you the latest headlines. It's also in audio. Check out the podcast version each weekday wherever you get your podcasts. And if social media is where you get your news, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. When we return, we hear how NATO is fortifying its eastern flank and also how it's training Ukrainians to defend their territory from Russia. Welcome back. With the war between Russia and Ukraine raging next to NATO member countries, the alliance is always looking to fortify its eastern front on a moment's notice. NATO recently showed its ability to deploy as part of Exercise Griffin Storm 23. 1,000 soldiers and more than 300 vehicles from the German Army's 41st Panzer Grenadier Brigade rushed to Lithuania via rail, road, and sea. The troops trained near Vilnius with a Lithuanian infantry battalion into July. The 41st Panzer Grenadier Brigade is a mechanized infantry unit that carries with it heavy mortars and infantry fighting vehicles. Ukrainian lives were turned around in February 2022 when Russia launched its full-size assault against the country. Ukraine is not a NATO member country and can't count on the protections that countries such as Poland and now Finland enjoy. Its citizens quickly went from living normal civilian lives to fighting in battles. This NATO piece takes you inside a 5-week training course in the United Kingdom, turning citizens into soldiers.
І потрібно вже пошвидше закінчити цю війну і звільнити нашу Україну нарешті від ворога. Я не думав, що стану військовим. Були інші плани на життя, але сталося так.
We run a 5-week basic combat course. It is every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for that period. The focus of the course is to give the volunteers to the Armed Forces of Ukraine the skills and principles to survive, fight and win.
Okay, we're going to start the demonstration with a small recap, how to enter the building, and afterwards we're going to show you some new
A significant amount of the course is spent in the urban training facility. Urban is a complex environment with its own specific challenges, so it's really important that we train the trainees how to cope and operate in those environments.
Until now it's going well. It's a lot of information for those guys. We have a short term to practice it, so we have to tell them a lot of things and practice it a lot, again and again.
So the first man go in, the second man moves immediately behind him.
As well as focusing on the relevance of the course, we also focus on the realism and immersing the trainees in those realistic battlefield scenarios to help them to understand the effects that has on them mentally and indeed physically, and also to prepare them for the battlefield that they'll go back to.
It's like a false bombardment that's come in, and they've got to treat 2 casualties that are currently
have been wounded. So it's up to the guys to understand what's wrong with them and then treat them. They get into it, making sure it's the very basic things like stopping massive bleeds, making sure the person can breathe and things like that. But it's been very, very good so far, and they're taking it all on board.
In a 5-week course, we can't teach every context or every scenario that the trainees will face, but what we can give them is the basic skills and principles which they can then adapt in the context of what they're facing on the battlefield to survive and fight.
That's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more coverage. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.